5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Assistant Attorney General Olson, in April, in one of the DOJ's highest profile domestic terrorism cases, a federal jury appears to have found that the FBI entrapped people in a matter involved in an alleged plot to kidnap the governor of Michigan. The jury acquitted 2 defendants and hung on 2 others. You're familiar with that case, sir?
Yes, sir. I am familiar with that particular prosecution.
All right. You've emphasized the importance of the DOJ's domestic terrorism mission, or of that risk central to the national security mission.
Yes.
Is that case a fair representation of how DOJ is handling domestic terrorism matters?
I would include that case among many others that are part of our efforts to ensure that people who serve in public office are safe.
I think the importance is undeniable. The question is whether that's what FBI is doing. Let me just go on a little further. The evidence that the jury heard, mostly in text messages and testimony of agents and informants of the FBI, was that the FBI did not discover an existing scheme and take the plot, collect evidence and take down plotters. Instead, the FBI appears to have contrived the plot, used its informants to draw people into the plot, and provided logistical and financial support to what was in effect an FBI operation. And the board behind me details just some of the resources that were devoted to the op. You had a lead informant, a guy named Big Dan, who was paid $54,000 over 6 months to pretend to lead a fake militia to recruit really disadvantaged and unstable men from a Facebook discussion group. One of them was living in the cellar of a vacuum repair shop. FBI paid travel expenses for people involved, food, even alcoholic beverages to take the targeted folks to a militia conference out of state. There were more than a dozen FBI informants involved in the process, undercover FBI agent, several of them, one of whom purported to teach how to make a bomb and used a bomb video produced by the FBI. At one point, according to the New York Times, there was a nighttime surveillance at Governor Whitmer's vacation cabin, and 4 of the participants were informants, including Big Dan, or undercover agents. At one point, when the group was sort of falling apart in August 2020, the FBI handler congratulated Big Dan, said, quote, "Look at you, bringing people together." Now, he congratulated him for breathing new life into the plot. Not as well known, the same FBI agent, Jason Chambers, coached Big Dan in a parallel scheme to recruit folks into a contrived plot against former Virginia Governor Northam. And at one point he's asked by Big Dan how to couch the plan to one of the recruits, and Chambers wrote, quote, "Mission is to kill the governor specifically." So again, now that's the evidence I understand from the trial. Don't know that it's a complete sampling of it, Mr. Attorney General, but is that the kind of conduct that DOJ and FBI are engaged in pursuing domestic terrorism matters?
So I'm sure you can appreciate that case, as you know, involves defendants charged with kidnapping the governor of Michigan. It's an ongoing case. The judge has ordered a retrial, and that retrial is set. Given that it's an ongoing case, I simply can't comment on any of the questions you've asked.
Well, it's not ongoing as to 2 defendants. They've been acquitted by a jury. I understand that DOJ has decided to retry 2 other defendants, but the evidence is what the evidence has been. That's been public. There's been media stories written about it across the ideological spectrum. It's not like this is some kind of right-wing notion. Don't those revelations impair the credibility of the FBI, which you said earlier is very important?
Again, that case the judge has ordered that case be retried. It's an ongoing matter, and I can't comment further.
How many FBI informants, agents, respectively, were involved in that operation?
I'm not going to comment about that particular case.
How much did the FBI spend on it?
It's an ongoing case. It's set for retrial, so I'm not going to comment on it.
The alleged Whitmer plot was announced October 7, 2020, within a month before the U.S. presidential election. How come that timing for the FBI's announcement of this plot?
That's an ongoing case. I'm not going to comment on it. I can tell you that in every case, we follow the facts and the evidence and the law, and we do so without regard to politics or ideology.
FBI's got a notorious history on exactly that kind of thing, and you have no comment about that exposure of that during the month before the presidential election, or the propriety of doing it.
Gentleman's time has expired. The gentlewoman from Pennsylvania
I'll let
is
him answer the
recognized.
question. Usually that's the practice, is he gets to answer the question that I've posed.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, I did ask a question.
Okay, yes, you may answer the question.
That's an ongoing case. It's set for a retrial. The judge has set it for a retrial, so I'm not going to comment further.
Thank you. Now the gentleman's time has expired.